Qualifying set to get underway here at Misano. Welcome everybody for the GT2 European Series powered by Pirelli. It is a very hot and sunny weekend, middle of July in the Adriatic coast. What else do you expect? Well, it's certainly been a warm test day for the teams yesterday with the cars out on track for free practice and pre-qualifying. And now the serious business of two 20-minute qualifying sessions to determine the grids, one for today, one for tomorrow. GT2 European Series, which has had an interesting year so far with the Lamborghini in the hands of Stefan Rossina and Bronek Formanek as pretty much the car to beat, certainly as far as the Pro-Am class is concerned, and they come here as championship leaders with Philippe Pret, the man to beat in the AM contests. Last year, pole positions went to Maseratis in both classes, both races, so certainly the Maserati is a good car around the Misano circuit, but as qualifying gets underway, we'll start to piece together exactly who the main threats are going to be and the drivers to watch are going to be across the course of the two 1-hour races. David Addison and Joe Osborne. Trackside Q1 is underway, 20 minutes on the clock. Drivers taking it relatively gently before they go out on track. As ever, you've got some cars with two drivers, some with one driver, and therefore some drivers are going to be busy doing both qualifying sessions. In other cases, one driver per session.
Yeah, Philippe Pret, one of those drivers doing both sessions there. See drivers getting their final adjustments done, making sure they're happy. Another Maserati. That one interesting, not having a rear view screen like Philippe Pret. That's Pampanini and Calamia there, and it's Pampanini in the seat at the moment. Window net done, and they will be ready to go. And 17.5 minutes remaining, so they'll want to get out there. No tyre ovens for the GT2 cars, so it will take a couple of laps to get them up. So then you've already lost 4 to 5 minutes of your session.
And one of the cars that you can see on track returning to the championship, good to see, is the Audi, the R8 LMS GT2. Stefan Rattel at the wheel, sharing with Luca Piri, the man who runs the car through LP Racing. It is Stefan at the wheel at the moment. Also new this weekend, more Lamborghini crews. Shota Abkazova we're used to seeing in Super Trofeo. The same is true, having gone well at Monza earlier on in the year. Diego Locanto. Abkazova will share this weekend with Egor Orochev, and the car that is going to be driven by Diego Locanto is Luca Segu, who also partnered him in Super Trofeo at Monza, and they went really well in the Pro-Am class within the first race. Segu, the quicker of the two drivers, so that's another one to watch. 20 minutes around this just over 4-kilometre long circuit will soon rattle by. It's not necessarily the most taxing of tracks. It's pretty flat. It's great for motorbike racing. It's got lots of low, flat curb. It's quite twisty in sections and quite fast in others.
Yeah, it's getting warm out there though, isn't it? So the drivers will be suffering from the heat somewhat. Fine in qualifying, short run. You're not normally distracted by it, but will become a problem in the races later on. An hour for those races. The drivers will be working hard as we get a great aerial shot here. Locanto purple, of course, at the moment. Good to see a few more Lamborghinis joining the championship as well. Will they be able to do anything about the 11 car? Formanek and Rossina have been so strong, dominant at times this year, but those Lamborghini teams, especially his DL Racing team, will be looking to take the fight to them.
5 out of 6 wins for the Stefan Rossina Bronek Formanek car. That's not yet actually gone out on track as you look then at Diego Locanto heading up towards the end of the lap. This car being run by DL Racing, his team. And Diego Locanto then comes down towards turn 11 through Curvone. And then this part of the racetrack, each right-hander is a bit tighter than the one before. You go from a kink to a corner to a tighter corner to a hairpin.
Yeah, cars approaching 240 kilometers an hour all the way down to 60. So it's a hugely technical nature because you don't want to brake too early. And if you brake too late, then going way too deep, and we've seen that already today in GT4 cars. Kissing the gravel on exit, trying to roll too much speed. Track limits, another issue here, and I think that might even be a lap loss there, just leaving the circuit. Got to keep one tyre on the white line or the black stuff, and that didn't look like the 72 car did that.
Well, if Locanto's lap survives, it's a 1:37.9. Nothing as yet on the timing screen about that disappearing. This is Shota Abkazova then, the Georgian driver, who is very much Mr. Motor Racing in that part of the world. He has owned circuits, run championships, run teams, raced cars, won championships, you name it. And Shota Abkazova, great character, and barely misses a season. He was champion in Legends Racing in Georgia, comes across the timing line now, and onto the timing screen with a 1:42.6. That lap of Diego Locanto is about to disappear.
I believe so, yeah. Track limits at T16, which is what we saw on our screen. So unfortunately for him, plenty of evidence. It isn't just TV pictures Race Control use. They've got lots of CCTV cameras here honed in on the circuit. Expect pole to be around a 1:34 to 1:35, depending on what these track conditions are allowing us. Track temp now already at 31 degrees, 39 degrees. So it's come up so quickly this morning.
And Locanto here is on his first flying lap, if you like, because the one that he had done that got into the top has been deleted. So Diego Locanto then now needs to be tidy coming out of turn 16. It's easy to push, especially, as I say, with low flat curbs. They almost suck you in. And again, he's way, way wide there over the white line. And you know, the evidence is there. Locanto can't argue with that.
Consistency is key. He's consistently bad out the last corner, and expect that lap to get deleted as well, quite rightly.
So, Shotrab Kazava is looking pretty strong. The one car that we haven't yet seen out, I don't think, is indeed the Formanek Rossina number 11 Michenek Motorsport Lamborghini. Relatively few have done lap times. Even those that have done a lap time are losing them. But they're ready to go is then Bronek Formanek. He'll do Q1. That's how you do it, just keeping the wheel in contact with the white line. So Abkazova comes across the timing line, and he does a 35.6. He goes fastest then, irrespective of what Locanto's lap times may or may not offer up.
Yeah, exactly, and looking good as well balance-wise for the car. The second drivers always like to watch this session to see how the car's looking, so when they jump in, they understand it. Lap record for GT2 round here is a 34.404, so we're still a way off that at the moment, but the times will start to tumble as these tyres get into their window.
This is Christophe Bourre at the wheel of number 53 Mercedes AMG, coming up to the end of his first lap.
What's your decision on that one?
I'd say that was a foul, personally. That seemed to be over the line, not on the line. Anyway, notionally, third fastest, 1:39.561. Good job you and I aren't track limit officials. What do you think about that? Oh, well, let's have another look. This is Philippe Pret, the man that leads in AM, and he really has been the driver to beat there. 4 out of 6 wins, and one of them was an outright win as well, wasn't it? The first race at Zandvoort, he won overall, which is pretty impressive.
Runs wide there, and that was that tightening nature of turn 12 to 13 to 14. One mistake leads into another, and that would have compromised overall grip running on the dust here. So dry. As soon as the cars go off the track, they're bringing a lot of that dust onto the circuit. Nice and legal out of 16. That Maserati looking very well poised and pushes to the line. That's second at the moment.
Now, just to prove that track limits are the same for everybody, this car has lost its current lap for exceeding track limits at turn 3. The driver of this car is the boss. It is Stefan Rattel. So it proves that it's fair for everybody. I think when GT2 started, Stefan was the first person to cop a penalty because he crossed the pit exit white line. And Peter Daly, who was the race director, said at the end of the session, I think I've just lost my job, because the first person I had to penalise was Stefan. He survived. But Stefan Rattel's lap will disappear. That's Stefan Ortelli, Le Mans winner, Spa 24 winner, Porsche Super Cup champion, Blancpain Endurance Series champion. You name it, Stefan's done it. He's a neighbour and friend of the Pret family and looks after Louis Pret with a lot of coaching in GT3 and helps Philippe Pret in GT2. This, in the meantime, is Alberto Di Martin in 8th fastest in the times. Diego Locanto, by the way, keeps losing lap time. So Formanek has gone out now and hasn't done a time. Locanto has been out from the start and hasn't done a time. Yeah,
Di Martin here still trying to get some tire temp by the look of it, weaving down the back straight there. He's only on his end of his first push lap, so that's relatively normal. GT2 cars actually giving garages this weekend as well, so that will be a nice touch for them, that they don't have to lug stuff from the paddock. And again, I think that's Stefan Rattel just showing his support for this series. Yes, we've had relatively low grid numbers, but the manufacturers are here and they're coming, so expect this series to grow a lot next year, especially with the support now, the silver category getting a fully funded drive in a Mercedes GT3 car the following season.
And to make the point, these aren't easy cars to drive for slow old men. You know, these are proper, serious GT cars. They slide around a bit. They do have aero that operates to a given level. You know, you've got to work hard to drive these.
They're the best cars on the package, in my opinion. They're the most power, the least amount of grip. That's exactly what you want as a driver. And we look at the KTM. This is a car that's been quick at times, struggled for consistency. Spa was a proper roller coaster for them, really fast at times, and then some reliability issues as well. But Daniel Kvyat here out the last corner, keeping it clean. Very stiff, that KTM. We're so used to GT2 cars rolling and showing their attributes of weight. Mercedes, one of those cars. Mercedes, interestingly, the only manufacturer represented here this weekend that hasn't won at Misano previously.
Kvyat then up to second in the times. It's Abkazova from Kvyat. This is Christophe Bure, who kept that earlier lap, so what do we know about track limits? And he is now 5th fastest. This is Philippe Pret, the best of the AMs, so he's got a provisional pole in AM, and comes then now on to turn 13.
On the dust again.
Yeah.
There. It's like it's his line, but he's just too wide of the apex. And I'll tell you, we're on the radio telling him that's such a visual cue that he's not on the right part of the track there. And guess who's just lost another lap as well, to show that Stefan Rattel is the same as all drivers.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that puts Stefan to the foot of the times, but I'm sure he'll bounce back. Another car that's in strife with the track limit officials is 789 of Pirelli that was good at Spa. Won in the second race there. Right, Bronek Formanek in the meantime, let's see where he can put this car. Formanek, if you think about pole positions, has been unbeaten. He's done 3 qualifying sessions and he's been fastest in all 3. So notionally, this is the pole position car. It should be up there. 7 3/4 minutes are on the clock. Let's see what he can do.
Car looking good so far. They've definitely got more competition from other Lamborghinis this weekend. We'd already touched on that. This is this tricky part through 11, which is easy flat out, into 12, which is slightly tighter. We'll need a slight feather off the throttle, then into a much tighter 13, which then suddenly throws you into a very, very tight 14. The front left tyre here will really be starting to ask for help. It might start to go off quite quickly, but so far the 11 car looking good.
So Formanek, with a personal and an absolute best in the sectors, needs to do something in the mid-135. Shota Abkazova's Lamborghini is into the pit lane, so he can't retaliate instantly on track. Up to the line comes Formanek. Is it pole position? No, it's only 3rd, interestingly. So that puts him ahead of Locanto, but behind Kvyat and Abkazova, who is still the fastest. Stefan Rattel now has improved on a 1:39.026 to go ahead of the Pirelli driven KTM. Pirelli back at the wheel of that, having been racing in Mercedes also this season.
As Philippe Pret pushes to the line, he's following De Martin in that Mercedes. De Martin goes up to 4th. Philippe Pret then goes to 2nd. So tyres getting faster. Here is Stefan Rattel 9th at the moment, but not really on pace, more because of track limit misdemeanors. So hopefully we don't see any here as he fights the car through 14. Keeping it nice there. Now the last couple of corners, 15 looking clean as well. Here the car's having to lift off the throttle, so much power, these GT2s. It's now just one track limit possibility. The exit here at 16 and it's clean. So this should lift him up the order. 9th at the moment. He crosses the beam and he goes 9th still.
But with a better lap time, a 38.581, so goes faster. But that Shota Abkazova, work done. And he will give the car over to Igor Orodchev then for the second part of the session. Bronek Formanek then down to 4th in the times. Philippe Pret, the best of the AMs, up to 2nd overall.
Yeah, it's a better lap from Formanek here. Like you said, he's had a hat-trick of pole positions. If he makes it 4, that's a haul in football terms. But looks like he's boxing. He is. He's coming into pit lane. And that's an interesting call. With 5 minutes remaining, are they going to try and bleed the tyre pressures and go back out? Or is he saying that's all I've got?
Be surprised if that was him abandoning it, wouldn't you be? But let's see what they do. It's a long pit lane as well here, because you've got the long drive on the pit straight, but then the pit exit really only comes sort of midway between turns 2 and 3. You blend back on really on the approach to turn 3, so there's a lot of pit lane. As here looking quick is Alberto De Martin, who comes up towards the timing line 6th, and as he breaks the beam, up to 3rd fastest. So good effort that by De Martin, 3rd fastest on a 1:35.752.
Yeah, we see the Mercedes so quick in a straight line, and that's showing that in Sector 2. It's this Sector 1, it's struggling a bit at the moment. The stop-start natures of turns 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 in Sector 1 as Pampanini, car 7, currently in 7th.
This was the only other car to have won in Pro-Am this year, had a victory at Zandvoort, remember? So Roberto Pampanini, sharing with Mauro Calamia, comes up to now turn 13, into the hairpin at 14, and then that run on towards the completion of the lap. So let's see what he can do, because this car is a long way back by their high standards. 7th in the times at the moment.
Yeah, slightly tentative with his positioning on the curbs as well. He doesn't seem to be happy to ride the entry and exit curbs as much as some of the other cars. Pampanini does stay 7th there at the moment. It's tight though. He's less than a second off pole, so the top 7 all covered by a second, and Bure only a 10th behind him.
Right, this is Locanto up towards the line. He is now 6th in the times. Diego Locanto, new to GT2. A lot of people have come into GT2 and they sort of dip in and have a look and then go away again. If we could get them all on the grid at the same time, it would be a very, very big field. Up to the line goes Locanto then in the adapted Super Trofeo Lamborghini. An improvement puts him 5th fastest. Alberto Di Martin's already gone up from 6th to 3rd. Can he improve again on his next lap with an absolute best? Middle sector, he's absolutely on the cusp of a track limit there on the white line, but he breaks the beam and stays 3rd.
Yeah, purple Sector 2, and Locanto actually had a Sector 3 purple on that last lap, so the car's hanging on tyre-wise here, and Formanek has come back out, and he's at turn 5 at the moment, so I'm just quickly working on the fly. I think he's only going to get 1 fly. He's close to possibly squeezing 2, but interesting strategy there from that team.
Well, they're also hoping, perhaps, is that there are fewer cars on track, because we know that Abkhazova has pitted, that Bure has pitted. That is David Kajaya then in the KTM. We saw him at Spa racing in the championship, and he went pretty well. So 2nd place in race 2, a 3rd in race 1. He was sharing that weekend, as he is here, with Mato Homola, so it's a competitive combination. But there's now going to top a bit stuck behind the Roberto Pampanini Maserati. Strange that that car has never quite clicked this year. I know it's had that one win at Zandvoort, but you sort of have always expected better, and it doesn't often come. They get there sometimes, but not always, and it's slightly mystifying, especially given the pace of Philippe Pret on his own in the AM Maserati. It bails for the pits. Here to the timing line comes Kajaya then. He was 3,000ths down in the middle sector by the end of the lap, 4th quickest, and it's a slightly slower lap time.
Yeah, as a tyre drops off, historically with a tyre in qualifying you tend to get 3 good laps if you're not using tyre ovens, and then it starts to drop away. The canopy looking slightly loose on that KTM. The front leading edge seems to be popping up more than we're used to. There is Philippe Pret, fastest in the AM class, 2nd overall at the moment. Can he do anything? 13,000ths he needs to find. That is nothing. That's literally measured in centimeters. So he'll be pushing on, hoping to find a bit of time. We saw him running wide at 13. Can he adjust his line there to find those 13,000ths?
Comes then now onto that back straight. There's a little kink midway through, which is counted as turn 7. So Philippe Pret then on the run into that section of the circuit, and then from the kink you come down towards Quechia, turn 8, hard on the brakes, goes into the corner, and now accelerates on towards the kink at 9, the proper hairpin at turn 10. And on this lap, Philippe Pret is down in the 1st sector, as you can see, and by some margin.
Yeah, that's just that tyre dropping away, and expect him to potentially bail at the end of this lap and save the tyres for the race. He'll get his Sector 2 time in the next couple of seconds, and he is green, so he's going to keep going, isn't he? This is a chance here. What's his Sector 3? This is where we've been running wide. The next right-hander, we've been on the dust, and that's been compromising us. Better than we've been, but still on that dust. You can see it getting kicked up, and then I think that loses him grip all the way through into 14, and that's really been his main compromise of the lap that we've seen.
So here now is a charging Philippe Pret. Bronek Formanek is back out and charging as well, but they've both dropped in that 1st sector. Philippe Pret, neat and tidy, coming out of turn 16, breaks the beam and goes quickest with an absolute best in the last sector. So Philippe Pret, not great Sector 1, good Sector 2, really good Sector 3 is the fastest. Formanek, only 5th quickest, goes through and actually went slower, so it's just not happening. He's got one more push.
This is his last lap now, isn't it? And it was all of the colours sector-wise for Pret. Orange, no improvement. Green, personal best, and purple, the best out of everybody. What can Formanek do? He won't be happy with this. Right mid-pack, 5th at the moment. They've been used to dominating. Is this a track that doesn't suit the Lamborghini? Had they had a problem? Is that why they had to box early? It's an okay sector one. It's not green, but it's not far off. So if he can keep this lap pin, there's a chance. I think he could get anything up to 3rd place. They're so tightly packed.
A 5th AM pole of the year for Philippe Pret. What about Formanek then? He has taken 3 out of 3 in terms of the qualifying sessions. Remember, Philippe Pret drives on his own, so there are more opportunities for him to take pole position. Formanek may well be beaten for the first time this season. He was a 10th down in Sector 1, heading then up towards the end of the 2nd sector. He will come to the beam any moment. Is it going to go green? No. So this lap is getting away from him. I'm afraid to say Bronek Formanek is not going to take pole position.
Yeah, and at the moment, half a second down is what Kajaya is. So unless he can find something in this last sector, this is not going to be an improvement on his current position. Philippe Pret still pushing, decides to box. Good chance to practice coming into the pit lane quick, because he will need to do that in both races.
And of course he can stay in the car ready for Q2 that is about 10 minutes away. There is that break so that the teams with 2 drivers can get the car in, make some adjustments, get the next driver strapped in without it being a mad panic. The flag is out, so Formanek bails as well, which was the right thing to do because he was never going to go quicker. Yep. The other car that's out is Locanto's Lamborghini, and he's going to take the flag on the pit straight.
Yeah, and I think Locanto had a difficult start to that session, didn't he? Losing so many laps to track limits, ended up 6th position there. So the Lamborghini 2nd, 5th and 6th. So a real split for them. But the Maserati here, Philippe Pret, the pole position man.
And that's impressive. He's had an outright win this season, and now an outright pole position as well. So Philippe Pret, very experienced driver. He was champion a good few years ago in the Ferrari Asia Pacific Championship. In fact, he won that twice and was the AM champion last year. He's raced in mixed mark racing as well, in things like the French GT Championship, but also apart from GT2 and Ferrari's racing Carrera Cup France. So out of the car he gets, he'll stretch his legs for a couple of minutes, then get back into the car. Son Louis there shakes his hand and says, "Well done, Dad." And Stefan Ortelli, with the headset on, will say well done as well. So 0.2 of a second the margin between Philippe Pret, the AM pole winner, and Shotram Kazava, new to the championship but taking pole position in the Lamborghini in Pro-Am. Alberto Di Martin 3rd ahead of David Kajaya, and then Bronek Formanek a disappointed and Ing 5th ahead of Diego Locanto, another newcomer. Then Roberto Pampanini a long way back ahead of Christophe Bourret Petrolicia in the KTM, and Stefan Rattel to round out the order. The fact that you've got half the grid within 7/10 means that we should have a good battle. We haven't really yet touched on the fact that there's compensation time as well to serve in the pit lane. Now, Philippe Pret, because he was out of the top 3 in the most recent race at Spa, doesn't have to carry any extra time. But if you are in the top 3, the regulations are that you must carry extra time going into the next race. So irrespective of how good you are in qualifying, that all has to be factored in as well. So there you've got the tyres going onto the cars ready for the 2nd session. Within the AM class for the first race, 10 seconds will be added to the Petrolicia Victor Mirage class winning KTM, 7 to the Bourret and Gibbon Mercedes, and also 7 to Oliver Freimuth's Lamborghini, were it here. I think I'm right in saying that's missing this weekend. And then in Pro-Am, there are 10 seconds to the Formanek, now Stefan Rossina Lamborghini. There are 7 seconds to the Homola Kajaya KTM, and 5 seconds to Pampanini, now Calamia's Maserati. So Philippe Pret ready to get back on board. In some cases, different driver. Philippe Pret thumbs up, happy with his work in the first part of the day. And Louis Pret will, in a moment, encourage his dad back to the car. And in theory, it should be easier now for the soloists. They know what the track is like, they know what the car is like, whereas the incoming driver has a lap at least to play himself in and try and work out how the car and how the circuit feels today. Yeah,
I'd agree with that. Maybe the only negatives, you started to overdrive. Stefan Rattel there talking to Alex in pit lane as well. Be interesting to get his thoughts on how that was track limit wise. Did he agree, or was it the standard racing driver replied, no, it must have been a mistake there, which it rarely happens now. With all the technology involved, all of the excuses starting to sort of almost run out for us drivers.
So that is going to be Igor Orochev, former World Endurance, European Le Mans, Formula Renault 3.5 driver who drives now with Abkhazova in Super Trofeo, sharing the car this weekend. So Egor Orachev, certainly a man to watch. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how he squares up to Stefan Rossina. It's going to be a really interesting fight, I think, now between the two pros in these Pro-Am entries. And Shota Abkhazova handing that car over. Egor Orachev has got to start as a candidate for pole position. Also, keep an eye on Luca Segu, because he was very impressive at Monza in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. So another quick gun. And they're the cars all ready to go. In some cases, driver change, 88, for example. Stefan Rattal hands over to Luca Piri, the LP of LP Racing. And before Q2 gets underway, let's go to the pit lane. Alex Legui for us has found Stefan Rattal.
Stefan, your first opportunity since Hockenheim last year. I don't imagine it comes round very often, but you're beaming. You look very happy.
No, even if I'm last, a combination of track limit and being old. You know what I do it by passion. It's always been my motivation, and even if I didn't race for 20 years, I went back to it when we started GT2 5 years ago, and it's good to see from the inside the pleasure you offer to all your clients, you know, and this is a great opportunity to stay tuned to what we love.
Yeah, and these cars, this championship, is good fun, right?
Yeah, but it hasn't been easy. I can't understand it because the cars are beautiful, they're powerful, they're very cost effective compared to GT3. They're the right way behind between GT4 and GT3. But it's been a bit slow, but we're changing the concept for next year. Initially, when I launched it, I wanted to do the championship for myself with maybe older gentlemen, but it doesn't really work. So now we're introducing a cup for young drivers with a big prize of becoming an AMG driver into GT World Challenge Europe Endurance. So I hope it's going to motivate more people to come to GT2.
Oh, I hope so. What can Luca get out of the car during this session then?
Sorry?
What can Luca get out of the car during this session?
No, I mean, it's now let's see what Luca's going to do. You know, I have to say I haven't raced for a year, so I'm a bit rusted. But now let's see what my teammates will do.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's going to do better than me.
You'll just keep it within the lines, right?
Thank you,
Stefan.
So it's good to see Stefan finding a bit of time to get back behind the wheel. And you can tell he enjoys himself. He raced, as you were hearing from Alex, last year at Hockenheim and had a long break building up SRO Motorsports Group. Came back into GT2. There was, once upon a time, Stefan even raced at a British Touring Car Championship weekend. There was a guest race in the early days of Lamborghini Super Trofeo at the Brands Indy Circuit, and on the entry list was Stefan Rattal himself. That was around about 2000. But whenever he gets the chance to go racing, he does, and it's not only, as he says, done with motivation and passion, but it's excellent that he understands what the customers want, go through, and if they say, yeah, you know, but 20 minutes isn't enough, as an example, well, when Stefan does a 20-minute qualifying session, he knows firsthand whether actually it's too long, too short, whatever.
Yeah, best way to review a product is to do it, isn't it? And that's exactly what he's doing, and doing it with a smile on his face. But a competitive man is Stefan, so he will be looking at the data and video after this session to see where he can improve ahead of the two races.
As he says, he hasn't raced for a year, so a little bit rusty maybe. Right, Philippe Prat, good to go in this second part of qualifying. That's about a minute away, and I think he's going to find it harder in this to get an outright pole position.
Yeah, with some of the pros coming in and those Pro-Am rival cars. His attention will obviously always be on AM class pole, but the overall positioning is a nice ego boost, I think, for any AM driver.
True enough. That is Mauro Calamia, who takes over from Roberto Pampanini. So Calamia, the Swiss driver, on board. And he's another experienced campaigner, that's for sure, having raced not only in the likes of GT2, but also in Trofeo Maserati, in which he was a champion. He's been a class winner in the Nürburgring 24 Hours. He's raced in the Le Mans Cup. Did have a spell in the MSV era of Formula 2, the Williams-built one-mate championship. Pascal Gimont at the wheel of 53, another very experienced French GT racer from the sort of AM-level Creventic events all the way up to the 24 Hours of Le Mans itself. And the green light goes on at the end of the pit lane. That means the cars now accelerate down the pit road, ready to join the circuit. And the session is live. The clock is ticking for 20 minutes. Interesting, isn't it, how some are absolutely determined to get out early, like here Orochev and Pirelli. Others quite happy to sit and wait.
Yeah, my instinct is I would want to go early, purely on track temp rising and rising, which only makes it go slower, of course. But yeah, some trying to find some space. Racina looks like he's ready to go. They went very late. They were the last to leave, weren't they, out the 10 cars in Q1 with Formanek. So they're going to stick with that, or are they going to try and do something different? Because they won't be happy with 5th place there. I think Racina must have his eyes surely set on pole position.
I think you're right about that. There's also pride at stake. He doesn't want to be usurped, does he, by an incoming here, for example, Luka Segu, or by Egor Orochev, or indeed by the very rapid Mauro Calamia. So it's going to be an interesting fight, this, for pole position. There is Luka Segu ready to go. But again, the team just biding its time before they release him down the pit lane.
Yeah, and they're just probably looking at the timing screens just to make sure they're going to release into space, which at the moment is very easy. There's only 2 cars on track, and they're both almost equidistant away from pit lane. They're just coming to the end of sector 2 now. But it is a long pit exit, so it's quite hard for the teams to work out when they leave here. They've probably still got another 14 seconds until they can take that 50km/h limit off, as those cars that did leave pit lane first just coming towards the end of the lap. Will the tyres be ready for a push, or are they going for another prep lap after this? We'll see once they start to get going.
So here then is the car of Egor Orochev making its way up towards the timing line. And onto a flying lap now will go that Lamborghini. Egor Orochev probably hasn't been here, if at all, for a long, long time. He would have raced in things like Formula Renault and Formula Renault 3.5, but I'm struggling to think of what he would have raced here, because I don't think ELMS has been here. Certainly WEC hasn't, so this might be a bit new to Orochev.
Yeah, and it's an interesting track to learn. It's not the most technical, because it's quite flat and relatively featureless. It is quite difficult to pick up your reference points as a driver, so your braking, turning, apex exit points all sometimes feel a bit vague here, so you do need to work slightly harder on that. It's not a natural flow of a circuit. Then you factor in the track limit issue, and from a driver's perspective, it is only an issue, unfortunately, and you really have to be patient at times. It's very easy to overdrive, run slightly wide, and then you lose the whole lap in qualifying, and then that's when it starts to become a problem. So not the easiest track to learn. On a scale that I've just made up in my head, I'd give it a 7 out of 10 for difficulty of learning. And there is Calamia on board, ready to go, focused and there, but we've nearly used 25% of this session up as we see the KTM go down this long pit lane. The drone able to keep up at 50km/h, and then it kinks round to the right, then a slight left, and then the pit limiter off. So the driver will have their thumb poised over the button on the steering wheel to release it. You can see the exit line there. It's like leaving a village. As soon as you're there, release it, full throttle and go. But you need to stay to the left of that white line, and also beware of cars on track, because you are blending onto the race line now. So if someone's on their push lap, you need to make sure you're not in their way.
Was it last year or 2 years ago that in testing one of the GT4 drivers lost it coming through turns 1 and 2 and had a massive spin and ended up annihilating a car leaving the pit lane, completely innocent. The car just spun into that pit exit lane, and I think it was one of the Toyota Supras that had a lot of damage done to it by an errant spinning car.
And that would have been scary for the driver. You just wouldn't expect your left side of the car.
Yeah.
And I'm still waiting for that to happen at Spa, to be honest. So the pit exits are difficult for circuits, of course, to bleed in naturally and easily. But here at Misano, they've had to extend it to make it better. But even going all the way to turn 3, it still puts you onto the racing line ultimately.
So this is Egor Orochev, who is about to offer up a target time in the session. Let's see what he can do then, as the car here works its way towards the completion of the lap out of turn 10. Second part of the racetrack now. Speed building on the way down towards Curvoni. Behind is Mato Homola's KTM, trying to get a bit of warmth into the tyres.
This is going to be a good lap. His delta's very quick, but that's onto a 40.3. So at the moment, he's on for a 36 flat if he matches his sector 3. But at the moment, he's not matching his personal sectors. He's smashing them. This could be the fastest lap we've seen of the day. Is this going to be our sub 35 lap for this Lamborghini? It's being driven perfectly. The placement of the car exactly to the limit. Let's hope he doesn't go over that limit out the last corner.
Here he comes then, on the line rather than over it, so that should survive. Orachev looking for something in the 35s, and he's a 34.5. Really, really good effort. Purple, 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 and Egor Orachev there throws down the gauntlet, doesn't he? Because that is going to take some matching, never mind beating.
That is a really good lap, and Segu here is trying to do it. This could be sub 35 as well, but it doesn't look like it's going to be good enough for pole. And actually, I think that last sector's not been good. I think this could be quite a way off pole position at the moment. It's a strong lap, but yeah, nearly 2 seconds off.
Yeah. 1.9 down. Luca Segu, twice the runner-up in the Italian GT Championship, comes then out of turns 2 and 3. Speed building here as he comes up towards so-called Rio, the turn 4-5 part of the racetrack. So now the car onto the power. This is Egor Orachev, who is quicker again in sector 1. He's done another purple in the first sector. So Orachev not only has the road to himself, but he's very experienced and is going really impressively. But now Luca Segu faster than Orachev in the first sector. Absolute best for him.
Yeah, by 2.5 tenths as well. So these Lamborghinis really alive. And at the moment, this car is on pole by 1.9 seconds, but it's also 9 tenths of a second quicker than any time done in Q1. So these Lambos really have lit up the timing screens. And there's Segu on the graphic too. Homola not really in the fight at the moment in the KTM. At the moment, this is a Lamborghini Trofeo battle, isn't it, at the top?
And this is kind of what the championship needs to prove that it's not all about KTMs or Maseratis. You know, other brands can come in and go well. Orachev then goes over the timing line. That lap was a 34.5, but fractionally down by about 27 thousandths. Over the line goes Mato Homola. He is 4th. This is Segu, look purple and purple. So Lucas Segu thinking anything Egor Orachev can do, I can do better. Really nice and tidy out of 16 up towards the beam. Can he beat a 34.5? The answer is yes, demonstrably. An absolutely perfect lap to go 6 tenths quicker, a 1:33.8. That is awesome.
Oh, and Racina and the other Lamborghini, we've got 3 here. This is the 3rd one, really wide, like we saw Pret round 13 on the dust. I don't think this is going to be good enough for pole, maybe not even 2nd place at the moment for Racina. But what a lap from Segu, and he knew he was so fast, and that's why he didn't push the last corner like Racina does. I think that could be a track limit right on the limit there as he comes through, and it isn't good enough. It's 3rd, so Racina really with a lot of time to find.
All they can do in a sense is bank points, but the car didn't look that quick in the hands of Formanek. I'm surprised that Rosina is taking the battle to Orachev and Segu. This is Philippe Pret, fastest in AM. Is he going to come through as the quickest in AM? Not yet, no. He is now, forgive me. He comes up now on the timing screen, a 35.4, so he takes the class pole away from Luca Piri.
Yep, I will forgive you. He's just a 10th off his best time in Q1, so time to improve, and I think his focus will have to shift to AM pole because of those pace of the Lamborghinis. He's not going to find 1.6 seconds. He's going to find 2 or 3 tenths at most. Calamia, what can he do? Doesn't look like he's got much response to the Lamborghinis either.
This is the tougher session for Pret, though, isn't it? Because this is where the AM is taking on the pros in the Pro-Am cars, and Calamia takes on the curb and loses.
Yeah, and that's a track limit, so I think he's going to lose that lap, even though lost a lot of time. Maserati's not happy through 13, really illustrating. And Segu on another lap. Where's he going to stop? He's already got the lap, but it's been deleted. That's why he needs to keep pushing. Segu's lap, it was clean at 16, but somewhere else on the lap it wasn't. And Racina also losing their lap. Track limits going thick and fast, and that's why your timing tower on the left is changing without cars doing laps.
Turn 3 for Segu, which is the final part of that first S sequence. This is Stefan Rosina then, and we are being told that the previous lap was cancelled because of turn 16. We thought it was on the cusp. This comes across the line 5th fastest. So Rosina, a 35.743. The frustration for Lucas Segu is that not only has he lost that lap time, but he thought he'd done enough and therefore pitted.
Yeah, on a lap with 2 purple sectors. So I think I might be wrong here, I think he did 5 purple sectors in a row, full 3 on the lap previous, 2 on that, and then he boxes, and now he's just left pit lane after being told, you don't have a lap, you're now in 6th.
Yeah, get back out.
And that's exactly what the opposite of what the tyre wants. It's done a heat cycle nearly now, so it's going to be hard for him. And Orikchev is in the pit lane as well, but he is at the moment safe by 0.6 of a second as we see Gimon go across the line to go 7th, overall 3rd in class.
Also, these track limit aspects to qualifying are going to be part of the race because they don't go away when you go racing. You've got more time to transgress. Now, okay, you get more opportunities, for example, 6 before you start getting penalties, but it's not a case of losing a lap. You know, they tot up and eventually you get a time penalty, or worse if you keep on transgressing. So the drivers need to be careful. That was Calamia over the white line pretty much coming out of turn 16. He'd already lost the previous lap at 13, as Joe said, when he got all sideways. He's up to 3rd fastest, and that is Rossina, who's had a moment, and that is where? That's at 14, is it?
It's hard to call him out. I think it is 14. He doesn't have the transponder. Obviously, Philippe Pret actually running very wide there. Almost thought they were going to collide, and he gets going, and it is the exit of 14. This is through 13, and then loses it on the way in. Super slow-mo, doing well to frame that perfectly. But these GT2 cars so fast. Turn 13, this ever-tightening radius of corners, super difficult. And he's probably just got a way of not flat spotting those Pirelli tyres too badly, as we now see the Lamborghini still pushing on, and needs to Segu down in 7th place. And I just can't believe how quickly it's unravelled.
Yeah, and also, as far as Rossina is concerned, not only is he down a power of no good to those tyres and had a spin and wasted that lap, he also got a track limit and the lap deleted because he ran wide at 13 in order to spin. Now, Segu back out, absolute best sector 1. And so far, nothing on the timing screen about naughtiness at any corner for track limits. Neil Montserrat, the NM of the NM racing team, also pushing on.
Yeah, purple sector 2, the Merc loves a straight line, and that's where Segu is now, and he just needs to keep it clean. He's got pace in abundance as Montserrat coming into the final corner. Where can he go? He can only go up. He's 10th and last at the moment, keeps it legal on the last corner. He's just so worried the car unwinding the lock and running wide. He crosses the line 2nd. That's a huge improvement. Good job from the 115.
As Segu has dropped a little bit of time, 31 thousandths in that middle sector. Nothing on the timing screen about this lap being wrong. So here he comes, one more corner to go. It should be an improvement. How much of an improvement, we'll wait and see. A 34.5 is where he needs to be. Comes up towards the timing line, breaks the beam now. Fastest then a 1:34.325. 2 absolute bests. And now our eyes swing to the message screen. Nothing up yet.
It looks so close on the last corner. If the edge of the track was a knife edge, he was just got his fingernails around the blade, I think. I think it was just okay, was my gut reaction. But there was no need to be that tight. But he's pushed on, pole position by 0.2 at the moment.
Meanwhile, in the slightly calmer AM class, Philippe Pret, Luca Piri, Victor Marash are the top 3. This is Mato Homola. Now, around here, you get the feeling that the KTM is just a little bit short of grunt because there aren't enough tight corners for the nimbleness of the 2-litre turbocharged car to get up there.
Yeah, and exactly that. And it likes a high downforce corner, of which is really only 12 here. Turn 12, that is not 12 corners, and that's a track limit. That's easier one to call. He's cut his wrist off there with the track limit, so I don't think he's going to survive that one. Montserrat still pushing. Can he do anything here? At the moment, he only needs to find a 10th to get on the front row.
Looking good, isn't it? As we've had Pascal Gimon lose a lap time in 53 Mercedes AMG, being broken by Montserrat. Fastest! A 1:34.315. That is 1/100th of a second quicker than Lucas Segu. He has a big old slide coming into turn 2 that's probably spoiled the lap, but that was a good effort.
Amazing. I don't think he would have thought he had that. Segu now on a slow lap. I don't think he's got anything to respond with either. I think the tyres have gone. Can Philippe Pret get any closer? Currently leading the AM class. He's 8,000 slower in this session than Q1. So very, very consistent there, and stays good out the last corner. Pushes to the line now. 5 minutes remaining, so can still get 2-3 more laps. He does improve just over a 10th quicker, and that just helps him get away from Pirelli ever so slightly, who's 2.5 tenths behind him for this AM class pole.
Now, lap records can only be set during races, but if you were to have a pretend lap record set out of qualifying, then it would now be owned by Neil Montserrat. A 34.3 is the fastest ever GT2 lap around here, and of course they'll be quicker in qualifying, which is because of lower fuel, because it's a shorter session. That's why lap records are only officially set in races, but Montserrat going quicker than anybody went last year, which is impressive. Calamia, or Calamity, only 5th. It's just not, again, just not clicked, has it?
No, it really hasn't. Is that a Maserati thing? Is that a driver thing? Both Maseratis together, Pret and Am, you would expect Calamia, who is boxing now, to be more than 2 tenths of a second quicker than the AM of Pret in a Maserati, so they haven't got that car quite hooked up as much as they want. As we see this 12 Lamborghini pounding around. He's done a huge amount of laps in this session. He's done 2 more laps than anyone. He's done 7-time laps. So those tyres, if they're going to be using them in the race, have done a lot more than anyone else.
Yeah, and Orodchev staying out, but slowly. That is Calamia into the pits. 4 minutes on the clock, he's done. Just to make the point about the 2 Maseratis, run out of different teams, so it kind of makes you think it's a car thing. In the case of Pret, though, you wouldn't expect, like I said earlier, in this session for an AM to be ahead of the pros. But Calamia is one of those pros, and he's only 6th. So I still come back to the Dynamique team not having quite unlocked something in that car this year, because although it has had a win, it's not been a consistent front runner in the way we expected.
Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment. And the other one there is the Racina car as well, because they're nowhere. And that spin really showed how their Misano weekend is going thus far. They've been dominant. They've looked easy. They've been cruising around, having 10-second penalties in the race and still winning. This weekend, that is not the case.
It's going to be good, isn't it? It really is offering up perhaps the most competitive races we've had in a long, long time. Up towards the timing line here comes Luca Pirri, and he breaks the beam, stays 7th then, a 35.916 was the lap time, a 35.5 was his best. Mato Homola heading up towards the timing line and will go through, but stays 4th. So we're nearly at the end of the session, 3 more minutes to go. And in fact, the majority of cars now in the pit lane.
Yeah, the tyres have dropped off, haven't they? They can't improve. So unless you as a driver can find something. Segu feels like he's been on pole position 9 times and lost it in this 20-minute session. He's still pushing on. Montserrat pole boxes. He gives up, and so does Segu. That is it. I can't see anyone now really changing any of the order. Pirri was close on that lap, but I don't think the tyres have got anything left.
So with 2.5 minutes on the clock, the only reason to stay out would be for track knowledge, but I think Orodchev is staying out, so he's taking, as we were saying earlier on, life out of the tyres, but maybe he feels it's worth just doing another couple of laps just to get used to Misano even more. But this looks like a proper push, doesn't it? The way the nose suddenly hit the deck when he got down towards turn 1 suggests that he had to stamp on the brakes pretty hard, and that means there's one last roll of the dice coming here. He's got time to do this, and indeed one more lap. This is probably his last proper chance. Let's see what he can do in the first sector then. Igor Orodchev is at the minute 3rd in the times, and he's about to come through the end of that first sector then now. When he does so, the timing screen tells us he's down, and he's down by about 4 tenths on the best.
Yeah, he's not far off his personal best, 1300ths. His last lap was a 2:20, so he took a load of time. 50 seconds he's run wide, he needs to give up now. But interesting, he went for a cool lap, 2:20, so he lost nearly 45 seconds there to try and let the tyres come back. But yeah, he's decided after that missed approach at T8, that is it, the tyre is done.
So Igor Orodchev then bails from the lap, and there's not really, I wouldn't have thought, much point in trying again. The only other car that's out there is Luca Pirri in the Audi.
Yeah, just on a green sector 1 as well, so he's still chasing that AM class pole. Only needs to find just over 1.5 tenths. This is where we saw the Lambo run in wide and gave up. The Audi seems to be hanging on nicely though.
5 different brands represented on the grid this weekend. Luca Pirri then in one of the original GT2 cars. Go back to the early days when you had the likes of Stinus Longin, Bert Longin, Anton Kumpen driving these cars, Bert Longin as well, and also the likes of Anders Fjordback, Mark Patterson, first champions in the Audis. But then other marks have come along, and the Audi team's gone off and done other things, but it's good to have the Audi back on the grid. Of course, the other element is that the Audi Sport support isn't there anymore, but Stefan Rattel's car was sitting under a dust sheet, as it were, so why not bring it out to remind people how good GT2 is and how good the Audi can be in these races as well. Audi have always built AM-friendly cars, and Pirelli decides that, you know what, I'm not getting anywhere with this lap, I'm going to pit.
Yeah, so everyone now can breathe a sigh of relief. Neil Montserrat, the one breathing the biggest sigh. There's still that one Lamborghini out there pounding around, but he has done a mega lap, and it surprised me. It'd be interesting to know if they thought they had a chance of pole position.
Well, it is a first pole for Neil Montserrat. In AM, it was Philippe Pret for pole number 6. But interesting, isn't it? Having talked for quite a bit of the session about the battle between the Lamborghinis, ultimately it was the Mercedes AMG that appeared, but only by 100th of a second to go top. That's going to make it for a really tight battle. And again, you come back to the point that it's not only tight between these pro drivers, but then you start to look for the second stint at the relative pace of the AMs, and that's where the interest really comes in double driver Pro-Am racing.
Yeah, exactly. This Mercedes, watch it dive as it hits the brakes here. So strong in a straight line, but then to make the BOP, the balance of performance, work, it's not the fastest in the corner, and that will be an interesting story in the race as well. I think it might work its tyres slightly harder than the Lamborghini it's going to be directly up against, and it also doesn't seem to ride the curbs quite as well. If we get the exit here of 16, when it goes over the serration, the whole rear of the car really loads up and almost bucks over that. So it's going to be a hard race car, that one. You can see the whole car there, left to right. And that is a track limit as well. So we know that wasn't his fastest lap. But again, a great illustration of the physics at play.
So Neil Montserrat, who got himself as far as Formula Renault 3.5 as a driver, as also did Igor Oroshev, takes provisional pole position from Luca Segu, and then Igor Oroshev the third. Fourth, Mato Homola, Maron Calamia fifth, Philippe Pret sixth, and a sixth pole in class. Seventh, Luca Piri, and only eighth, Stefan Spinner Rossina. Victor Marash was ninth, and Pascal Gibon in 10th. So Philippe Pret pole, Neil Montserrat pole, and a really interesting race in prospect. They're going to be on track this afternoon for the first race for the GT2 cars at 4:15. So it's going to be pretty hot for certain at that time of day, but the 1 hour race will be an interesting one. Neil Montserrat then starting on pole position for the NM Racing team. So there is the pole winning Mercedes AMG. And once that's gone through the scrutineering checks, they can breathe a sigh of relief. And we can have a look at the highlights of GT2 qualifying. The qualifying session began with the KTM of David Kjaya and Mato Homola looking rapid. So too in the AM session, if you like, was Alberto De Martin, who hustled on in the number 115 Mercedes AMG. And very rapid Shotrab Kazava, who took a Pro-Am pole first time out in GT2. Philippe Pret then was fastest in AM in both sessions, a fifth pole coming in Q1, a sixth pole therefore coming in Q2, and Philippe Pret the man to beat as ever in the AM category. Shotrab Kazava gave way in Q2 to Egor Oroshev, who was fastest early on, but didn't hang on to that pole position because others went quicker, although Stefan Rossina had a big spin while trying to chase the pole time. Also having gone well was Luca Segu, although he lost his best lap to track limit offences, and Neil Montserrat took pole for race 2.